Who would like to start off? Anyone on that side? Don't be shy.
Please don't be shy.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
Starlight and Baghdad, we absolutely love, both have a relationship with the father and the son, and rather a more, in my opinion, charismatic father, stronger father, weaker son. And I just wondered why.
Can I just check, because we don't have microphones out there, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the lady's question was, having seen and greatly liked both Vertical Hour and Skylight, they both have father-son relationships in them, and if they could talk about that.
Yes, there's a very funny story about the Skylight father-son relationship, which was that my son clearly saw that relationship as a portrait of our relationship. And he came to the first preview and he said to me, "You see, Dad, you wrote me as a prick, but the audience loved me." I think that says it all. Philip in Vertical Hour is absolutely not a portrait of any of my children. That's not about me, and nor is Oliver, for that matter. But there are autobiographical elements in my relationship with my son. It is true that what I say in Skylight about teenage boys do go through a funny period. Do you have it?
I do.
Yeah. Well, you know that experience. But it's true that I've loved writing about fathers and sons. It's true.
So we took one there. Anyone on this side? Yes.
Slightly on the side. If a play has had a popularly successful run, it still has to be taken off because there are other plays scheduled after it. I thought, but then there are transfers to West End or other theatres, and I thought it was a mystery that Stuff Happened didn't get that. Can you perhaps explain?
Oh, don't get him started on this one. That question was...
Well, Mark can answer that.
Yeah. That question was about the fact that in subsidised or repertory theatre, this one being repertory but not subsidised, plays get taken off because another one's coming in, and it was a mystery to the gentleman why Stuff Happened never transferred from the National Theatre. I think it was a mystery to you why didn't play for longer at the National Theatre.
It was a mystery to me. It's a deep mystery to me which has never been explained to me. In other words, Nick Heitner approached me and said, which is one of the genius of Nick Heitner. Yeah. Nick Heitner, when after the Iraq War, just said, "We cannot call ourselves the National Theatre if next year we do not present a play about the invasion of Iraq." And so, together, he and I worked on this play. And this play really, it objectively, not if I were not involved, I would nevertheless say this play really blew the doors off the theatre. It caused a huge. It caused a huge storm of excitement, really, and it brought a totally new audience into the National Theatre. It packed the National Theatre out for 80 performances. Another play was scheduled to follow it. I was promised the play would return, and the play never returned. And why it never returned, I don't know. And people attribute conspiracy theories. A lot of people have written that it never returned because it was not popular, plainly, with the government. And the government of the day did make that plain to me. But it nevertheless, I never believed that, and I found it completely mysterious. The only remark that made sense to me was that a feel-good element is missing in my political work. So that if you normally think about political writing, it is true that it's usually about the correction of injustice. And so, I haven't seen the film Pride, but I imagine the film Pride is about the correction of injustice. You feel wonderful coming out of the cinema because a wrong is done, and out you come, and Les Miserables or whatever. Classically, it's about the correction of justice, and the executive director of the National Theatre said to me, the problem is you write political plays where you don't offer any flag to rally round, and you don't offer the audience that upward feeling when they come out of, right, I shall now go and, to the barricades, you know. And it's true that I've never written that kind of play. And so, in their heart of hearts, impresarios believe that the kind of play I write, where I want the audience to think and feel, are not commercial in the way that those rallying plays are commercial. And so that's their defence. But personally, I don't believe a word of it. But it's the best defence I've ever heard of why stuff happens, vanished. But it was much the most, Mark will notice the history of this, it was much the worst thing that ever happened to me as a playwright. It just, I couldn't understand it, and to this day I don't understand it.
Did you know that Hans Blix turned up and bought a
Yeah.
day ticket?
Yeah.
The gentleman was saying that Hans Blix turned up.
Yeah, Hans Blix turned up, and typically, because he's such a wonderful man, didn't even tell us he was coming, and we just found him in the circle. And I wandered up to the circle to see that, because I was so excited by the kids, you know, because it was a completely new audience. And in the middle of the kids was this bald, 80-year-old hiker. And it was Hans Blix. And I said, why didn't you tell us? He said, oh, I just wanted to see the play. It was fantastic.
The thing you said about not writing rallying plays, I was thinking about a moment in this revival of Skylight, that the audience, in a sense, they turned it into that, because the speech that Carey Mulligan's character has about the state of the country and the contempt for...
Yeah, but it's not where the play's going.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying that the audience, you're right, that they wanted that. They wanted to get...
Yes.
They all get behind it and kind of turn into a rally at that moment.
And I've had an extraordinary mail from all over the country. There's a speech in Skylight in which one of the characters, really partly what Vertical Hour is about, which is saying, don't impugn our motives. She goes to teach in the East End. And, she says, I'm sick of people questioning our motives and saying there must be something wrong with her. What's her problem? Why is she so hung up? Why does she need to go and do this work? What's her motivation for going into the East End? And she says, the motivation is perfectly simple. If I didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. And I'm not interested in the motivation. I'm interested in what gets done. Now, this speech was, when we did it NT Live, cheered all over the country. In other words, I get all these letters from people in cinemas down the country saying, and of course that makes me feel wonderful, but it's not where the play is going. I'm not trying to send people out of the theatre to... I was taught very early on by a Puritan at the Royal Court that hysteria, he always said hysteria is the easiest thing to get going in the theatre. He said it's like shouting fire on the tube. And he sort of said it's cheating. And I feel that.
So he didn't like musicals then?
No.
No.
I absolutely loathe musicals because emotion is demanded of me before I'm ready to give it. This button is pressed and somebody starts singing as if they are insisting that I must respond and I must be moved. And I kind of go, I'm not ready to be moved yet because you haven't done the work of doing it. I turn to the person next to me and they're in floods of tears.
I'm worried about people like that. Is there anyone in this section who wants to, you don't have to, but just...
Not a song.
Yes, there.
How much are your plays your own meditation of sorting through your thoughts and opinions on an issue?
Completely.
I'll just repeat that. How much of David's plays his own meditations of sorting through an issue?
It's such a good question. If the play's alive, it means I've probably gone in thinking one thing or feeling one thing, and I come out thinking or feeling another. The classic instance which I always cite about this is that when I wrote about the Church of England in Racing Demon, I wrote this sort of lament for the passing of this institution and how sad it was. And I wrote the whole act like that. And I suddenly thought, why does this, smell rank, this play, right? And I suddenly thought, oh, it's because I don't believe in God. So, because I don't believe in God, it's sort of phony, this thing of my writing, as if I were terribly sorry that the Church of England were passing. Surely if I don't believe in God, I should be glad to see the Church of England pass. Do you see? And the minute I realised that, and I was writing from a false perspective, then a much more interesting play emerged. Not unsympathetic to the Church of England, and indeed much loved by clergy who love the play. But it's a much more complicated play, because it's actually about what the people in it truly believe, not this easy sentimentality about, oh, it's so sad that nobody goes to church anymore. And so it wasn't until I really got going that I worked out how false what I thought I was thinking was, and discovered what I really thought, and immediately came to something much more interesting in the play, I think, I hope.
Looking at the play we've just seen, purely on my experience of it, though we were encouraged to believe that your viewpoint was through the female protagonist, sometimes I felt it was coming from Oliver as well, and it would move as you were trying to wrestle with two ideas that you could see the logic in both, but neither of them held a strong belief.
I think that's fair. I think that as author I'm distributed through all the plays I've written. And, you know, everyone always stupidly says that I'm the women. And they always say, oh, you're the woman, aren't you? But I don't know that I am. I think I'm usually distributed. Even Philip, I have some, I can't mend cars or climb on roofs and get leaves off the roof. But his attitudes, a lot of his attitudes have some sympathy for. And yeah, I'm distributed. As in all good plays, I don't think Tennessee Williams is Blanche de Foix. I think he's Stanley Kowalski as well.
We'll try and get as many as we can. Yes, I can see a hand there. Yes.
I saw the play in 2004, and I think it's a timeless piece rather than a timely piece. Not only timely piece, should I say. But it's funny how you pick out different things. And what I picked up this time was more about how the profession, the medical profession has changed or is changing. And I thought, well, you could expand on that in terms of its ethics as well.
Yeah, I think that.
I'll just repeat for the other. So the lady saw it in 2004 and was struck that it was timeless and timely, but she thought this time about how the medical profession has changed.
I feel I've slightly dodged writing about the medical profession, and obviously because I wrote those plays about the church and the law, I was asked a lot to write about the medical profession. And I actually spent some time trying to write about them. There's an extraordinary day at St Thomas's where 3 hospitals, I can't remember, Bart's and one other, and all the kids who are about to be doctors that year all gathered together on one day, and there's 450 kids who are going to be doctors all gathered together. It's incredibly moving. And I did want to write about it, and I agree with you that the way the medical profession has changed in the last 10 years is sort of foretold a little bit in Oliver's character, I think. And I do regret not having written more head-on about that subject, but at the time that I wanted to, I saw no way of doing it except as a lament for the passing of socialised medicine in its pure form. And that seemed to me boring. In other words, I can't go to another play that says 1945 was great and now it's terrible. I can't write a play like that, and I can't go to another play like that. And I'm asked to write those plays all the time. Everybody comes to me and says, can you write about how wonderful 45 was and why it's terrible now? And I don't want to write that play.
But also, which certainly when I saw it here, well, every time I see it, you get that reaction that Oliver becomes in effect a critique of politicians.
Yeah.
That line that gets that reaction inevitably about telling you the truth and being there till the end.
Yeah, and also the line about, you know, whereas presidency means something in America, that if
yeah.
my Prime Minister would have rang me out,
I
wouldn't answer.
I would love to.
Yeah. And that's my own attitude.
Does he ever ring up?
This Prime Minister?
Cameron, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't go near. I've refused to go.
I've ignored this side, so anyone we're sort of getting towards the end, you don't have to. Last chance, and I can hardly see up there, but I'll just do that in a minute, sir. But anyone, yeah, can I just ask, is anyone on this side, because I can't quite see it, but you're okay. So yes, there, sir.
Can you tell us a current political issue that you might be writing a play about, or going to be writing a play about?
Yes, could you talk about a current political issue you might be...
Oh, well, I've written this play about a slum in India. I don't know if you know this. But it's based on a book by Catherine Boo, who lived 3 years on in a slum. If you arrive at Mumbai airport and you go screaming in a jet, at the end of the runway there's a slum of 3,000 people who live at the end of that runway. And Catherine Boo is an American journalist who went in and lived in this slum for 3 years. She didn't live in it at night, she spent the day in it. She lived outside at night. It's given me a chance to do what I've always wanted to do, which is write a play about how the very poorest survive. And it's a fantastic subject, it's a wonderful subject. And we have 25 Indian, or rather Asian actors in the Olivier.
Including the star of it.
Including, exactly, Thusitha is in this. Thusitha is in it. And it's a huge thing for the National Theatre because the Olivier's never had an all-Asian company, especially an all-Asian company of that size. And it's really, you know, you can tell from this play that I've been worried about the problem of how do you write about the poor. And, you know, this is a play about the poor, really. And so it's, that's exciting. And then I've written another play, but it's about a completely different subject, which I'm not going to tell you. But it's not, as it were, a predictable subject at all.
And it may be revived at the Park Theatre.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to leave it there, but that was great. Thank you very much to all of you. Right.